All right, guys, in today's video, we are talking more about Xbox because we have some pretty significant, or I'd say interesting info coming out here. We have some comments from Phil Spencer. He's talking about the future of gaming, once again, letting us know their plan when it comes to first party and exclusive games and stuff like that. And we also have a little bit of an update on the July 23rd Xbox Game Showcase. And I find this interesting for a couple of reasons because they seem to be taking a slightly different approach to Sony. But what I also find interesting is what Aaron Greenberg had to say specifically about this show, because maybe I'm reading into it just a little bit too much here, but it almost seems as though he's trying to subtly lower people's expectations. Again, I may be reading into it too much, but we're going to get into it here and it's going to make for some interesting conversation. So make sure you hit the like button to help the video out. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and hit the bell notification icon as well. But let's just jump right into it. See the future of Xbox on July 23rd on the Xbox Games Showcase. So the day you've been waiting for is nearly here. On Thursday, July 23rd at 9 a.m. PT, we'll be giving you a closer look at the future of gaming with the Xbox Game Showcase, including world premieres and updated looks at some of the games we've already revealed. And yes, that includes your first ever look at campaign gameplay from Halo Infinite. So they're getting out ahead here and just letting everybody know not to expect any multiplayer gameplay. Xbox Game Studios is pushing the industry forward with a huge variety of games, all of which support services and features that put the player first, including Xbox Game Pass and Smart Delivery. What's more, our celebration of all things Xbox games will start with a Summer Game Fest pre-show beginning at 8 a.m. PT. Tune in for reveals, predictions, insights from YouTube creators, and more on some already announced titles coming to Xbox, hosted by Jeff Keighley. The Xbox Game Showcase pre-show will air on YouTube Gaming. So I plan on streaming this event live myself, so I don't know if that's something I'm going to stream live as well. Maybe I will. They're talking about, reveals and stuff. So I don't know. Maybe we'll stream that. Maybe not. I kind of just want to give my own predictions and my own thoughts, just chat with you guys until the show actually starts. But you'll be able to watch the Xbox Game Showcase in a variety of ways. And so this is where you see a little bit of a different approach here. Apparently, Xbox is planning to stream the show at 1080p 60 frames per second, and they will have a 4K 60 FPS video on demand immediately after. That's obviously different from what Sony decided to do. Sony went with 1080p 30, and ever since then, the conversation has been, oh, Sony's games can't do 60 frames per second, and Digital Foundry did their whole analysis saying that, it seems like they might not, and it's a developer choice and whatnot. And I find this interesting because you have to assume, and people were getting on my case about this, but I honestly just feel it's a logical assumption, right? Somebody tell me if I'm wrong in this, but if they're going to stream this event at 60 frames per second, is it not because they're going to have at least a couple of games that are going to be running at 60 frames per second and they want to show that off? People have made me aware that you can still, stream at 60 frames per second even if the content you're seeing isn't running at 60 FPS. Well, obviously, but why would they do that? That doesn't make any sense unless they're just trying to pull a marketing ruse, which is possible, but that seems highly unlikely to me. And so it will be interesting. The number one thing here, though, because we seem to be having this conversation where it's like, oh, Xbox games are mandated to run at 60 frames per second across the board, and PlayStation's games they're going to be stuck in the past at 30 FPS. I need to remind you, and we're going to talk a little bit more about this as we go further into this video, that while maybe you will see more games that are running at 60 FPS at this Xbox event, do not forget, these are all current gen games you're looking at, or at least games that are able to be scaled down to work on a console that released in 2013. So I would hope that they could hit 60 frames per second. I have to mention that because I see a lot of people kind of throwing that up and talking about it. And look, I'm expecting to see Microsoft, at this event flexing a little bit and being like, yeah, these games are running at 60 frames per second. And that is good. I'm not saying that's bad. But what is bad is the fact that you're also going to tell me, oh, by the way, all of these games are going to be tethered to the Xbox One. So I guess maybe, look, it's 60 frames per second, but is it really a next-gen game? We don't know. You can't say it is. If you're telling me it's going to run on a 2013 console with Jaguar CPU cores, you cannot tell me that's a next-gen game. I'm sorry, it's a cross-gen game, and in my eyes, that makes it a last-gen game. Just being honest here, just my thoughts. I'm not saying you have to agree with that. I'm just telling you what I think. So it goes on to explain a little bit more here. But what I find even more interesting are Aaron Greenberg's comments here on Twitter, because he linked this and he said, I know everyone is excited for Xbox Game Showcase next Thursday, seen some wild expectations. So, if helpful, the show has one focus: games, no business, devices, or similar news, just games, a whole show about an hour long focused on games. Hope you enjoy it. So, there's a couple interesting things we can take from this. First of all, we are becoming aware now that it's going to be about an hour long, which is fine with me. That makes sense. I mean, any longer than that, I mean, it would be fine if it was like an hour and a half, but that's fine. I mean, you can show a lot of stuff. Sony proved that you can show a lot of stuff within an hour. And I find it interesting that he's saying, seen some wild expectations. So if this is helpful, I mean, I'm assuming, look, I can assume one of two things here. When he says wild expectations, he may be talking about the Xbox Series S showing up and pricing. He's making it very clear with this tweet that they're not talking about hardware here. You're not going to see the announcement of the Lockhart console. They're not going to be talking pricing. So I think that's what he means by no business. It's just about the games. But I'm sorry, man. Like, how can you expect people not to have wild expectations? If anything, encourage people to have wild expectations, because this is the moment. This is the single most important moment, in my opinion, for the future of Xbox. So yeah, let them have wild expectations. And frankly, Aaron Greenberg, not gonna lie right now, you're making me feel like I should lower my expectations because you're saying it this way. However, I do appreciate the fact that you're letting me know the focus will simply be on just the games. There's absolutely nothing wrong with letting people know that. And that is something that honestly can be looked at as a good and as a positive, because that's what we're tuning in to see. You call it a game showcase, it needs to be all about the games. So yeah, hopefully it's going to be big. Hopefully he's just downplaying this. Hopefully he's just trying to make it sound like, oh yeah, I've seen wild expectations and maybe you need to calm down a little bit, so that way people can calm down and then they come out and surprise everybody. But yeah, we're going to move on from that and we're going to talk about Phil Spencer's comments here saying we are the future of gaming. So let's read what Phil Spencer has to say here. Games are a source of joy, inspiration, and social connection. They have the power to bring us together, create empathy, and strengthen our social fabric. As we prepare for the next generation, our efforts to make gaming more inclusive, more immersive, more connected, and more social are as relevant and important as ever. See, look, I'm not all about this here. Like right off the bat, I'm not trying to break down everything Phil Spencer says and make it sound like everything he says is bad, but I don't fully agree with his idea of what the future of gaming is about it. And inclusivity is fine, but talking about, being more connected and more social, like that is like what we're striving for. Look, I'm somebody who enjoys the single player experience by myself. I don't need to be connected to anybody. I don't need to be talking to anybody. In fact, you could argue it's kind of an antisocial experience, but I enjoy that greatly. So that's one thing I've never really fully agreed with Phil Spencer, is he always makes it sound like that is the future of gaming. And yeah, it's a huge part of it, but I mean, come on, like, for a company that is not making many single player, story-driven games, I don't think you should be doubling down on that. But anyway, at Xbox, we listen to what you, players, game developers, and content creators tell us you want from the future of gaming. Based on your feedback, we are building a future where you and your friends can play the deepest, most immersive, and interactive games ever created across your Xbox console, PC, and mobile devices. At the dawn of the next generation, it's important to be clear about what you can expect from the future of Xbox. Our vision has one hero at the heart of it all, you. Okay, it's a little bit cheesy, but sure. You will always be welcome. We are building Xbox for you, players from all walks of life, everywhere in the world. We want to make your Xbox community safe, accessible, and welcoming, a place where you can have fun. As we say in our community standards, harassment and hate take many forms, but none have a home on Xbox. Should you feel others are behaving in ways that violate the standards, our safety team will investigate your report and support around the globe, and we continue to accelerate new technology to reduce hate speech and toxicity, giving you the tools to create safe games. Okay, well, that's fine. I mean, basically, it just sounds like here they're letting us know right off the bat that the future of Xbox will be less toxic and they're taking extra measures to ensure it's a safe place. So I'm all for that. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. That's how it should be. Your games will look and play best on Xbox Series X. Xbox Series X is designed to deliver a new level of fidelity, feel, performance, and precision never seen before in console gaming. All games will look and play best on the Xbox Series X, whether they come from our 15 Xbox game studios like Halo Infinite or from our world-class publisher and developer partners packing over 12 teraflops of GPU power. I thought that they didn't care about the teraflops. I thought that didn't they just say that recently? Whatever. Power, including new technologies like hardware accelerated DirectX ray tracing and variable rate shading, and with 4 times the processing power of the Xbox One X. See, why? What is the point? I'm just going to be honest. What is the point of emphasizing that when you're still going to be releasing games on the Xbox One X? Just saying. Xbox Series X enables developers to provide you with transformative gaming experiences through richer, more dynamic living worlds, more realistic AI and animations, and support for higher frame rates, including support for up to 120 FPS. Xbox Series X also enables you to spend less time waiting and more time playing, as it virtually eliminates load times with the 40 times boost in I/O throughput from last generation. With our custom next-generation SSD and Xbox Velocity architecture, nearly every aspect of playing games is improved. Game worlds are larger, more dynamic, and load in a flash, and fast travel is just that fast. The Xbox Velocity architecture also powers new platform capabilities like Quick Resume, which enables you to seamlessly switch between multiple titles and resume instantly from where you last left off, without waiting through long loading screens. Right now, Xbox Series X is in the hands of our 15 Xbox Game Studios teams and thousands of third-party developers. Okay, so this whole Velocity architecture thing, I'm not going to speak too much about it because, frankly, I haven't looked too deeply into it, but all I'm going to say is this. For all those guys who've been saying that, oh, the SSD doesn't matter, I/O throughput doesn't matter, it doesn't matter, that developers are praising this up and down and claiming that, you know, what Sony did with the PS5 and the SSD and I/O throughput, yeah, sure, they may be saying it's doing things for games that, you know, have never been possible before and whatever, but it doesn't matter, right? It's just going to result in better loading times. Let me tell you right now, why do you think Xbox is going all in with the marketing of this Xbox Velocity architecture and bragging about the 40 times boost in I/O throughput? Because it is very important, and because, you know, they're becoming aware that Sony, even though they have the less powerful console, right? It turns out that Sony, the master of marketing here, they are able to get people to pay attention to the SSD and talk more about the SSD and the I/O throughput. In fact, developers are doing that as well, and they've changed the narrative once again. They flipped the script, and that's just good marketing. Whether you agree with it or not, that's good marketing. That's why now Microsoft is talking more about it than they were before, because they realize this, because people aren't so fixated on the T-flop talk anymore. That's been broken down, and we've all, you know, if you're paying attention to anybody who knows what they're talking about, you'll know that the T-flop difference is not really going to be the big game changer when it comes to the difference you may see in first-party games come next generation. It's not going to be all about the teraflops, and we're starting to realize that. I mean, we have realized that, and so now you see Microsoft bragging about this, and that's great. The Xbox Velocity architecture, it seems like it's their software solution, I'm assuming, for trying to close that gap, because we know it's a very wide gap between what the PlayStation 5's SSD is capable of and that I/O throughput versus the Xbox's, and this is their way to kind of close that gap or shorten it, and I think it will do that, and that's great, but still just have to point it out that, you know, I guess it's good when Xbox talks about it and the SSD and the I/O throughput, but not when PlayStation does, because remember, it's just, oh, it's only going to result in slightly better load times. That's all it's going to do, right, for gaming and the future of gaming. Okay, so I don't know if I'm going to... Okay, yeah, this is the part I wanted to read. So you play new games day one with Xbox Game Pass. I'm not going to read this because we all know what... I mean, it says it right there. Every one of their games will be there day one with Game Pass. You won't be forced into next generation, because this is a bad thing, right? This is a bad thing. We want every Xbox player to play all the new games from Xbox Game Studios. That's why Xbox Game Studios titles like we release in the next couple of years, like Halo Infinite, will be available and play great on the Xbox Series X and Xbox One. We won't force you to upgrade to Xbox Series X at launch to play Xbox exclusives. So, yeah, I mean, okay. And they're just, they're continuing to go on here. Your games will not be left behind thanks to backwards compatibility. So that's good. Your Xbox One gaming accessories come into the future with you. Also great. You can buy games once at no added cost. Talking about smart delivery, you choose how to jump into the next generation of gaming. You are in control of a healthy and balanced gaming lifestyle. You will get more from Xbox Game Pass Ultimate membership. So that's good. I think they're talking, this right here is talking about xCloud and Game Pass coming together, which again, that's fine. That's great. That's actually pretty cool. So you'll have that library you can access. But yeah, I just look, I don't want to say that this is all bad because it's not. Like, I will give Microsoft a lot of credit here. Like, they're being ultra transparent and they're being as clear cut as they possibly could. And I have to give them credit for that, where this write-up that Phil's doing here, it's really smart because you're just flat out laying it right on the table, letting us know what to expect from the future of Xbox and going into next generation. And it's interesting to me because it seems like Microsoft went from one extreme to the other, and I'm not so sure that I'm on board with either. I mean, if you think about last generation with the Xbox One, the problem was they went in one direction to the extreme and people didn't like it, where it was all about DRM and they were pushing for the future and all this stuff, and people, Connect and whatnot. And there's just a lot of stuff that people were like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, what is going on here? Not to mention their focus seemingly was not on the games nearly as much as it should have been. People didn't like that. So it seems like all this generation, they were working to go in the opposite direction. And now that we're approaching the launch of the next generation with the Xbox Series X, it seems like they are going all in on the other end, where it's like it's all about transparency and inclusivity and exclusives are bad and we're so pro-consumer and all this stuff. And it's like, look, I mean, a lot of the stuff you guys are doing is great, but when you go to either extreme, I don't know, I'm not a fan of that. Like, I just can't get on board with this idea. Frankly, like, the number one thing here I'm not really a fan of is their stance right here. You won't be forced into the next generation, and basically just trying to make it seem as though it's a bad thing if you decide to, lock off the next gen exclusives to the next gen console. Right. And this is a conversation we've been having. And I'm just I'm sorry. The reason why I'm talking about these two things in tandem here, the July 23rd event and them updating us on that, as well as this, is because I'm just being real when I tell you, like, my excitement for this show is diminished simply because I know that every single game I see revealed, right? Every single new game I see revealed will be tethered to that 2013 console. And I've seen the arguments, I've been involved in the arguments where there's people who are trying to tell me it's all about scalability, you don't know what you're talking about. And that I'm never going to listen to someone who tries to tell me that a game made in 2020 or 2021 will not be held back to any capacity whatsoever, as if it's being tethered to a 2013 console with Jaguar cores. Okay, I'm not going to listen to anybody who tries to tell me that because I just don't believe it. Okay, I do not believe it. And frankly, I guess what I'm trying to get at here is it's difficult for my excitement going into next gen to be as high for Xbox, or anywhere near as high for Xbox as it is for PlayStation and the PS5, because I see two different companies going in two separate directions. Sony and their studios, they're going to be able to innovate. They're not going to be held back by a 4 teraflop or 1.8 teraflop console, right? Not that the teraflops necessarily matter, but you're talking about old hardware. You're talking about old components. Again, Jaguar CPU cores, man. No SSDs. They're not making their games and tethering it to the last generation. So therefore, their studios are going to be able to innovate, in my opinion, much quicker. You're already seeing it with games like Ratchet and Clank. Okay? I don't think Ratchet and Clank, what you're seeing in that game, would be possible on the next generation Xbox if that game was being tethered to the Xbox One. We already have studios like The Medium, or developers who are making the game The Medium, Xbox Series X exclusive. Why isn't it going to Xbox One? They said they wouldn't be able to realize their vision because it would be held back. So I'm just not about this, and I guess I just wanted to make this video to kind of give you my thoughts on these updates. I just wanted to relay this info to you guys about the Xbox Game Showcase. I also wanted to highlight what Aaron Greenberg said, because I do think he may be subtly trying to temper people's expectations. I could be reading into that too much. We'll see if I'm right or wrong at the end of the day. But I also wanted to highlight, what Phil Spencer had to say here, letting us know that we are the hero at the heart of it all when it comes to Xbox or whatever. We are the future of gaming, but I'm not on board, man. And this just seems like it's going to be the new thing going into next generation, where it's like, oh, PlayStation's anti-consumer and they care about exclusives, and you shouldn't care about exclusives because exclusives are bad for gaming, and it's all about allowing everybody to have access to everything at all times. And I'm just like, no, I like what PlayStation has done. I like what they're continuing to do, and that's what I'm going to support. And hey, if you like what Xbox is doing and you think that is the future, by all means, go support it. But at the end of the day, the market will speak for itself. So that's going to do it for the video, guys. I have no idea how long it ran. Probably ran pretty long, but I did enjoy it. I had a good time here going over this info with you guys. So at this point, let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Again, leave it a like if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel if you're new and haven't already. Hit the bell notification icon so you never miss an upload. And feel free to share this video out on top of all that. But until next time, guys, take care.